Okay, so I'm back with the second part of my Hitchcock DVDs and videos. As you might see behind me, I'll just, you can see a Hitchcock video poster right there. I obtained that at my local cinema. They were showing the movie Hitchcock, which is like a, what would you say, a docudrama. It stars Anthony Hopkins as Hitchcock and Helen Mirren as Alma Hitchcock, his wife, and Scarlett Johansson as Janet Leigh. I think I can't remember who played John Gavin. Somebody else played Vera Miles, and who played Norman Bates? I can't remember. That's a pretty interesting movie. It's about the making of Psycho. I highly recommend that movie. I don't have a copy of it. I saw it at the theater, but it's worth a watch. I think it's pretty interesting, funny, and shows how the evolution of a great movie classic came into being. Which was Psycho, and it's pretty interesting. So let's get back to the movies. This next one, this is a pretty good movie. Some of Hitchcock's films might be, I would say, some of my favorite movies of all time. And this would be one. I guess they'd be in my personal favorites. I mean, there is one Hitchcock that is exactly top bar favorite, and one that's very close. And I will say those when I get to them. But this is a favorite as well, and this is Rear Window. You see Grace Kelly here and Jimmy Stewart. And then there's that nice image of him with the telephoto lens. Now, this is brilliant. This is a film Hitchcock, used to know how to take limitations and work them to his advantage. Like with North by Northwest, back in those days, you could only have a 3-second kiss, so he'd rotate the camera around so you couldn't see them kissing, and then he'd have them talk in between kisses. So he danced around and he got around censorship a lot. And in the case of Rear Window, excuse me, my throat was a little parched. I just get more able to speak better. Rear Window, it's basically a film that takes place in one apartment, which looks over a courtyard into other apartments around. And Jimmy Stewart has this theory that his neighbor across the courtyard has murdered his wife. Not Jimmy Stewart's wife, but I mean the neighbor has murdered his wife. The wife of the neighbor, so and Jimmy Stewart's pretty convinced that this is what has happened, and he's going to try to convince Grace Kelly and his nurse Thelma Ritter that this is the case, and it's pretty interesting how it develops, and I highly recommend it. It's a great movie. You can't go wrong, Now, this next film is my personal favorite of Hitchcock's. It's one of my personal favorites of all time. I think it's, sometimes directors make movies that are like, how would you say it? Departures. They're not like, like certain directors have certain signature styles, and you can call some of those directors auteurs. With John Ford, it's Monument Valley. With Hitchcock, it's inserting himself into movies. With Hitchcock and Spielberg, you have the Hitchcock zoom, where you zoom the camera forward and move the camera at the same time. Antonioni with architecture, Fellini with weird-looking people, clownish-looking people, Godard inserting political and literary references in his films, and film references. But this is Vertigo. It's about a man, Jimmy Stewart again, who is a cop who is afraid of heights. And he's hired by his friend to follow his friend's wife. And his friend's wife, at a certain point in the movie, tries to commit suicide. Jimmy Stewart saves her life. And then a relationship develops in there. And then things go into complications. But this is beautiful things in it. It's a much more arty kind of movie. I would guess it has a narrative base to it as well as the other Hitchcock movies, but it has more of a mystery to it, and I like that about it. Sort of open-ended and a little more vague, not in a bad way, but I mean more leaving it up to your mind, maybe. There's great scenes, like when Kim Novak, they're in the redwoods of California. They're into these giant trees, and there's a cut trunk of a tree with rings, of the tree, on the tree's branch or whatever. And on the rings of the tree, it says things like 1066, Battle of Hastings, 1492, Discovery of America. And that's as the rings go out, the centuries change. And she uses her finger, and she puts her finger like in a certain area, and she says, "I lived here, and then I died here, and you took no notice." So great scenes like that, and like a certain kind of theme of like reincarnation, eternal recurrence, some kind of like Scorsese said, it's a film about obsession, and I think that's a very good word to describe it. So something happens to this woman, Kim Novak, during the movie, and what happens after that is he just makes the film even better than it was before. Not that the film wasn't great before that, but it just takes it to the next level, and that's what's great about it. It's a great movie. Can't go wrong. This next one is a pretty good action flick. It's a good action flick. It's got some pretty signature scenes in film history, like this one with Cary Grant. It's called North by Northwest. And that, of course, is the crop duster sequence where he's supposed to meet who he thinks will be Gabe Kaplan, not Gabe Kaplan, Kaplan, well, whatever his first name is, Kaplan. He thinks he's going to meet him outside of Chicago in this farm area where these crops are, and this crop duster tries to kill him. And that's one of the great scenes in the film. But at the end of the movie, it's fantastic because there's Mount Rushmore at the end of the film, and what happens at the end is fantastic as well. And this is a pretty good movie to have on DVD because there's a I haven't listened to the commentary, and that's by Ernest Lehman. He's a screenwriter. I think he's dead now. He also wrote the screenplay for Sound of Music, but he does the commentary for this film, and I haven't heard it. So if you've heard it, tell me what you think. I'm who knows when I'll get to it, but I would like to hear it at some point. But there's a nice documentary on here. I think it's around an hour long, and it's narrated by Eva Marie Saint, who is in the movie, and she shows how some of the shots were done, and just incredible movie, very entertaining. This is not like Vertigo where it's very heavy in depth and all that kind of stuff. It's just it's more of a romp, and more of it's an action movie. It's an early example of an action movie. And next up is my second personal favorite of Hitchcock's, and it's probably almost equal to Vertigo, and a lot. This is a great movie, and that's Psycho. If you look here, let's see. Somewhere here is Hitchcock passing by the office where Janet Leigh's character works. Janet Leigh's character in the film, she's having an affair with a man played by John Gavin, and John Gavin, I believe he's divorced. He has an ex-wife who he's paying alimony to, and they want to get married. And she sees some money that one of her boss's customers has on hand, and the boss tells Janet Leigh's character, "Put this in the bank for me, would you?" And she says, "Well, I've got a cold." She lies about being sick, and she goes to her apartment. She loads up her suitcase. She gets in her car and she leaves town. And she decides to stay the night at the Bates Hotel. And of course, cinema history has been written, with this famous shower scene. But that's only in the first 40 minutes, and the rest is interesting as well. This is a film you can watch over and over again. It never dulls itself. I mean, it's just a beautiful movie. And, I have some books. I like to collect film books as well. And I have some books on Psycho. And there's one I haven't read yet, but there's a lot of heavy theory behind it. Maybe some Freudian analysis. This was a classic movie. You can't go wrong with this. The shower scene, also, I mentioned in the previous Hitchcock video, Francois Truffaut had a book where he interviewed Hitchcock. It's called Hitchcock Truffaut. And they talk about the shower scene as well in that book. And you see clips of the shower scene video sequence in the book as well. And that's pretty fascinating, like how he discusses how, you see the knife and you see the reaction of Janet Leigh, but you never see the knife go into the flesh. But the cuts are so rapid that you think you see something, but you don't. It's sort of the Lev Kuleshov, Podofkin kind of technique that, where you insert shots together to create a third impression. Like a guy who's got a blank expression on his face, and in between the two blank expressions of the same face, you show a coffin, so you think the guy's sad. And instead of showing a coffin, you replace it with a puppy, and you think the man is happy. That's one of these kinds of theories of the Psycho shower scene that you could apply. Next up is the third installment.